This show is a part of the podcast network of the Walled Garden Philosophical Society, an international community of philosophers and seekers dedicated to the pursuit of truth, wisdom, virtue, and the divine, wherever they may be found. To find out more, go to thewalledgarden.com. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Soul Searching with Seneca. Now, I'm very excited about today's episode because it's on verse 7 of letter number 6 of Seneca's epistles. And in this verse, he outlines a principle that I've really been trying to work on for the past year of my life. And man, it's reaping beautiful benefits for myself. And I also use this with my clients as well. And it's a principle that I try to instill within them as often as I can. And I'm going to read this passage and then I'll dive into some thoughts about it and how you can kind of use it in your own life. But he's basically signing off the letter and giving a quote. This time he gives a quote from Hecate. So I'll read this. He says, quote, "I owe you my little daily contribution. You shall be told what pleased me today in the writings of Hecate. It is these words. What progress, you ask, have I made? I have begun to be a friend to myself. That was indeed a great benefit. Such a person can never be alone. You may be sure that such a man is a friend to all mankind." End quote. So this concept of being a friend to yourself is one of the most important ideas that I've ever learned. You know, because if you really think about it, we are pretty hard on ourselves as human beings. We're pretty hard on ourselves. And we don't often give ourselves the credit we deserve for how much progress we do make and how well we are doing in life, despite the fact that, you know, there's so much to contend with. You know, life is a really, really tough game. And you need a friend. And, you know, like Seneca says in here, that somebody who is a friend to themselves are also a friend to mankind. And that's because if you can be a friend to yourself, if you can start to be kinder to yourself and to treat yourself as if you're somebody worth taking care of, you know, that's an idea that I took away from Jordan Peterson. Treat yourself as if you are worth taking care of. You know, if you can do that, then, you know, you will be getting stronger, more capable, you know, better able to contribute to your society, because you'll be building a relationship with yourself that isn't based on constant blame and anger and you know, you should have done this and you should have done that. You can really live in that moment and say, well, how would I treat a friend of mine if I wanted them to live a meaningful, rich life? And I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into what it would mean to be a friend to yourself or to treat yourself as if you're somebody worth taking care of, because that's not the same thing as saying, you know, let yourself off the hook all the time. It's just not the same thing. You know, there's a few questions that you might think about. You know, one of the questions is, if you spoke to your closest friends in the same way that you speak to and about yourself, would they still be your friends anymore? You know, that's a great question that I learned a few years ago. And when I heard that, I thought, man, that's so true. You know, the way that we speak to ourselves is often the opposite to how we would take care of or treat other people. And one thing that we really need to remember is that, you know, do you really know yourself any better than you know other people? We are very complicated creatures, very, very complicated. There is so much to us, you know, like that line, you know, we contain multitudes. There's so much complexity about the human species, and to imagine that you know yourself intimately, or any more intimately than you might know other people, I mean, it's really a difficult thing to wrestle with, right? And so you want to treat yourself as if you're somebody who you're trying to build a relationship with, a close relationship who you care about and who you would like to live a meaningful life. And so one of the ways that you do that is you think, well, if I had a close friend who I really cared about and I really wanted them to do well in life, let's say I saw them doing something that I knew deep down that if they kept on doing it, it would lead them down a very negative, bad path in their life. Well, you'd probably have a conversation with that friend and say, hey, listen, I've noticed you've been doing this, and maybe you could change it because it seems like it's not a healthy thing to do. You wouldn't go up to that friend and say, you're a terrible person for doing this, which is often the thing that we say to ourselves, right? When we mess up, or when we don't hit our goals, or when we don't hit those highest aspirations, we say, well, that means that I'm this or I'm that. No. You have that conversation with yourself and you say, hey, listen, I can see that you're doing something that is not leading you down a good path. And if you keep on doing it, here's where you're going to be. And you don't want to be there, and I don't want you to be there. That's what being a friend to yourself means. It also means that, when, let's say your friend had a wonderful success in life, or they've just hit some goal, or they, even made some small progress towards their ideal, you might encourage them and say, hey, listen, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you're on this path, and congratulations. And how often do we do that for ourselves? Really, if you think about it, when was the last time you thought, you know what, I'm really grateful that I did that thing that was good for me and good for my future? How often do we recognize the good stuff that we do and take a moment to celebrate within ourselves the progress that we have made? That's being a friend to yourself. And as I said earlier, I've been influenced by Jordan Peterson's ideas on this subject as well, because he really expands upon this idea of being a friend to yourself and treating yourself as if you're somebody who's worth taking care of. And one of the areas that you can kind of start with this is this idea that he gives, which is essentially, you want to set a schedule as if you're setting a schedule for somebody who you care about and who you would like to live a well-balanced life where they, give a good amount of productivity, but also have enough time to rest and to be with themselves. And so what you might think is, that doesn't mean that I'm going to, set a schedule that's like 6 a.m. in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, busy doing all of this stuff. You want to set your schedule up in such a way that you have the freedom to refresh and to rejuvenate. And so that means that you're actually taking care of yourself. You're recognizing that you need many, many things, including the downtime. And so if you treat yourself as if you're somebody worth taking care of, you're not going to set up these crazy schedules that just have you doing all of this hyper productive stuff every day, but you're going to set up a schedule that means that not only you're going to have a small win today, you're going to progress by 1, 2, 3%, but you're going to be doing that tomorrow, and next week, and the week after that, and the month after that, because you've set up a schedule that actually takes into account the complexity of who you are and allows you to have that balance over time, as opposed to just thinking that you can force yourself into this hyper-productive, hyper-output-focused being, which is just not who you are. And so another thing that you might think when you're trying to be a friend to yourself is that if you had a close friend and all that you ever did was talk about productivity or talk about what you need to do and what you need to improve and that sort of stuff, that's no fun. That's no fun to be around that person. You want to have a bit of fun every so often. And that's how you be a friend to yourself as well. You take into account the multitude of complexities that it makes up who you are. And you say, well, I need to take care of all of these parts of myself. Not just one, not just two, all of them. And so how would you do that if you were being a true friend to yourself? And so I wanted to share that with you today because I think that idea that Seneca gets from Hecata of, I've made progress because I've begun to be a friend to myself, it is massive. Philosophy should be fun. It should allow you to see amazing progress over time, right? But also to teach you that it's not something that happens overnight, right? And you do need to be a friend to yourself over time so that you don't just burn out, and turn into this strange being who is just completely disconnected from who they truly are. Be a friend to yourself. Care for yourself as if you are worth taking care of. And man, I can tell you that it reaps massive benefits over time in well-being, in evenness of mind, and in philosophical progress as well. Absolutely. And one of the ideas that I always share with my clients is that idea that came from Epictetus, which is very similar, where he said, as I've said many times on this podcast as well, self-growth comes from a mix of self-scrutiny and also self-kindness. Be kind to yourself every so often. It will absolutely reap incredible benefits for you over time. So, other than that, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you take a few things away and just really meditate on whether or not you are treating yourself as if you care about yourself, or if you're kind of being a tyrant of yourself and just trying to force yourself in certain directions when you really know that that's not where you want to be going. Think about that and think about how you treat yourself. Would you treat other people in the way that you treat yourself? Would you speak to other people in the same way that you speak to yourself? Now, that's a very important question. I'll leave you with that, and I hope you have enjoyed this episode.